What is a cap table? A cap table is basically a type of spreadsheet generally, or it can be in an electronic online form that lists out the various stockholders, the stock holdings, option holders, and it shows the percentages of ownership of the company overall. You can use it to take a look at dilution for next rounds. You can do things like model out different voting scenarios if certain people vote for certain things according to your legal documents. But a cap table is basically an electronic tool of some kind that people are going to be using to look at the ownership of the company and model out different effects. Now, the important thing to keep in mind is that generally speaking, your quote cap table, unless it's maintained in an electronic database and it also is your stock ledger, it's not going to be your official record of stock ownership. That is in fact your company's stock ledger, and the actual ownership is determined really by the legal documents evidencing the ownership. So things like stock purchase agreements, option documents, your corporate charter documents with regard to authorized and issued stock and stuff like that. In other words, your cap table is a creation of your legal documents. It's not actually the thing that then determines these. Now you can use a cap table to say we want our legal documents to say this, at formation or as you're doing stuff. You can use it to model out things. But a cap table sometimes is used by people where in the way that they're just recording what they want ownership of a company to be, and they might be like taking shares from one cell next to someone's name and putting them in the column for another one. And that's not the proper way to do this whatsoever. So each time there's a change in any stock ownership, it must be documented. And in general, there really shouldn't be any transfers of stock between people on your cap table unless there are clear legal exceptions permitting it, because it's not really permitted as a general matter under law. And also it makes for a very messy cap table or stock ownership record. So it's very crucial that you look at this in terms of making sure the legal documents are done first, and that your cap table that you provide people is a reflection of that, not the other way around. If you are tracking ownership of your corporation solely in spreadsheets or some kind of scratchbook or notepad or something, that can make it very difficult, if not impossible, for you to get funding later. So it's really crucial, especially at the early stage, that this is done properly, it's done with the right legal documents, and some errors are in fact irreversible. So that there are certain really major tax consequences, and there are certain irreversible ownership disputes that result from not doing things properly in the beginning. So if I would recommend something, find a service provider like us or others that are used to working with budget-conscious startup companies that understand how to cost-effectively get things set up properly in the first place, and that understand the risks involved with representing these types of companies, so that you can get what you need at an affordable price without paying the price later. Because if you don't pay now to get it done right, you will pay later in the form of just not having investors. And trust me, this is as important as having clean code or clean websites and other things. And if you choose not to make the investment in getting your stock ownership right, what it communicates to investors is that you as a founder are a bad steward of capital, that you're not going to care about their money or their dollars or making sure that their ownership is reflected properly, because you don't do it with the equity of your company from the get-go. So you just don't want to be in this position. I've seen a lot of good, well-intentioned founders decide to cut corners and be irreversibly banned from raising money because they just didn't get things straight and they look sloppy, and it is an irreversibly bad first impression.